All right, here we go. Okay,
Okay,
go for it.
go. Hi, this is Peter J. Stavros from www.peterjstavros.com, and you are listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, reminding you to always bet on yourself.
See, what did I say?
Is that
Professional
okay?
speaker. First
I used to be a
time.
gospel radio DJ, so
See? Yeah, you know what? I think like people that okay, let me hit stop real quick and I'll be right back.
okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Charla Gervers. Thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Beer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I know I'm a little frustrated, but I'm getting over it. New credit card woes. But anyway, I'm good. So you just started a new business. Congratulations on that. So Charla Gervers, am I getting your name right? Charla
Yes.
Gervers. Yay, consulting. So what are you most excited about in your brand new business today?
Well, this journey started this summer for me, and
Right.
it really has been a labor of love over the last 25, 30 years, honestly.
Okay.
So packaging all the pieces and parts of what I've been given, what I've worked with entrepreneurs for all this time to help them unleash the greatness inside them. And in doing that, they achieve amazing things, right? We all have
Okay.
things in us that we just don't let the world see. And
Right.
those self-limiting beliefs and self-defeating games that we play with ourselves get in the way a lot of time of the dreams that we have. So packaging all that together to really help entrepreneurs, business owners, coaching and developing them. I've done some retreats that have been fun this summer to really focus in on like your body. You've got two parts to your body. What are you fueling it with? And what is your fitness? What are you doing
Sure.
to
Yeah.
stay fit?
I
Right?
love it. Love it.
Increase your health span.
Yeah.
And your being, your vertical relationship and your spiritual relationship with God. The next
Love
is your balance. So balance being your primary relationships, your spouse and your children, for example. And if you're not married, what are those primary and secondary relationships you have? It's important to have that all congruent.
Sure.
And then the fourth B is business. People would come to me for business coaching, but
Right.
invariably, especially if they developed any level of leadership, it wasn't the business skills that were getting in the way. It was one of the other things. Their health was out of whack.
Right.
Their
Right.
marriage was out of whack. Some other
Totally.
part of life was out of whack.
Yeah.
And so once I saw it, that this is really, you have to look at the whole person. You can't just pull a piece apart and segment it in order to really serve people well. So that's what I'm passionate about, is helping people, whatever it takes, to be able to live the life that they truly love. You only get one life.
Right.
You might as well live it and love it every day.
Isn't it funny? It's like a CEO comes to you for coaching and he says, I want to, you'd say something like, I want you to really nail breakfast.
Exactly. What are you
huge.
fueling your body with in the morning?
It's
right?
huge. Yes.
I'm fasting. I'm not eating until noon. So then
That's
no
okay. You can do that. Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. I think I caught myself because I've been playing with intermittent fasting, like, most people. Right.
Yes.
But I don't do it like most people. Like I'll have a little bit of yogurt in my green smoothie.
There you go.
And break my fast. Right. But then I don't eat until late lunch. Right.
Gotcha.
Right. So that's not fasting. But you'd be surprised how soon your body is fasted after just a small meal, right?
Absolutely.
And it's nice because then you don't get that funky fast fog.
Yeah.
Or if I want to get really weird, I'll have the protein shake, which again breaks the fast, but less fog. Anyway, I've been playing with this for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, our bodies are our laboratory, right?
Totally.
But you have to listen to it, and men can get away
Yeah.
with it that women can't, especially in their
Right.
perimenopause,
Yeah.
menopause.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
little different. And
Yeah.
as a woman, what you did in your 20s is not going to work in your 40s. Just flat out, it's not.
Not
From
no.
a fuel or a fitness standpoint. So
Right.
it really is studying your body and what it responds best to at
Totally.
all different phases of life. So
Right. Yeah. I love it. And getting outside. Like my new thing now is I was listening to this Andrew Huberman guy.
yes.
And he really sort of like dialed me in on why you need to get outside in the morning, right?
Yes.
You need to get a certain number of photons into your brain. I was like, what? Because
Exactly.
I knew that everybody, I think growing up, like my mom knew that, right? Intuitively. She didn't say photons in brain, but she
Right.
said, get outside, get some sun and some fresh air, right?
Exactly.
And so it's like an intuitive knowing that was there, like through culture. But
Mhm.
now we know, oh, okay, well, how long do I need to be outside? Because it's tough in the desert, it's hot,
Well, I'm in Texas, so it's hot here.
Right.
I was in Wisconsin for 4 very cold years. I traded
yeah. There
10
you
months
go.
of summer in Texas for 10 months of winter.
Oh,
And
lovely. Yeah.
the seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is
The
very
real thing.
real. Yeah,
Real
I was
thing,
there.
yeah.
I came in, let's see, the first full year I was there from October to April, there were 72 cumulative total hours of sunlight.
Right. Yes. It's
6
depressing.
months.
It's
6
depressing.
months.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I grew up in like Upper Peninsula, Michigan, right on the Wisconsin border.
Mhm.
So like, I don't remember when, but one of those very dark high school winters, I'm just looking over this bleak landscape. That's my hometown. And I'm freezing my ass off again. And it's dark at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
That's exactly right.
I mean, I'll visit, but I'm not going to live here. It's not fun. It's sad.
Yes. Yes,
And my
it is.
parents and family, they give me crap because I always say, look, you're allowed to leave.
Mhm.
And they don't, they
Right.
don't. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I went through a little bit of sad when I lived in England. Like my
Okay.
first year in England, it was like the first time in a long time that I lived in a cold, dark, wintry place. It wasn't really wintry, but it was definitely cold, dark, wet.
Cool. Yes.
So then after the first winter, we committed that like, okay, we're going to Spain. Spain has sun in the wintertime. Yay. So that's what we did. Anyway, so this is Vroom Vroom Veer. We have to go back in time.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to
Time
talk
traveler.
about Charla, whose uncle, or who was it? Who was Uncle Charlie?
Yeah, I was born on my Uncle Charlie's birthday. So
Gotcha. That's how you
where
ended up
Charla
with
came
Charla.
That's
Gotcha.
it.
But okay, so where did you grow up?
I grew up in Texas and
Gotcha. Okay.
born and raised in Texas, went to school in Texas. And then that's when I moved to Wisconsin after college and had an amazing time there. It was fun. Worked for SC Johnson. They were an amazing
Yeah.
global company, obviously, with brands around the world and every category there is. So it's fascinating to learn. And they have a Frank Lloyd Wright, the great workroom, and the
Wow.
owner,
Yeah.
Johnson,
Wisconsin.
has his home that was built by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, wow.
So just getting to go and experience things like that I probably wouldn't
I
have.
love that guy.
Yeah.
Just walking through his houses. I mean, like, I think I saw one somewhere in Arizona
Mhm.
where he made all of the stonework out of materials that were there already. It was awesome.
In the 20s, 1920s.
In the 20s. Yeah. What a great guy. A maverick as to, fun
Definitely.
dude. Yeah.
Definitely.
So what were you like when you were in high school? Were you already an overachiever?
For
when you were
grades
young?
and that sort of thing, yes, I was a basketball player, cheerleader,
Gotcha.
and then wanted to have as good a grades as I possibly could. So
College prep track. AP
kind of,
student.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes. Yes. But in my sophomore year of high school, I found out my dad had cancer. And so
Yikes.
that kind of took things on a little bit different track because I didn't want to leave home. I didn't want to leave, and go somewhere else.
Right.
So not my
So your activities kind of like had to take a back seat.
yeah, I mean, I still
Yeah.
did them, but
Okay.
family time was more important. So
I get
that
it.
family's been important to me really since then. And
Right.
in the next 2 years, in that time, it was definitely a hard time, but it was also a victory because they said his cancer, he had 6 weeks to live. One kidney was completely blocked. The other was 99% blocked. Get his affairs in order. That's what the doctor told us.
Wow. He's going to die in 6 weeks. Wow.
Yeah. I walked
Yeah,
back in the hospital room and he said, I don't care what they told you in the hallway. One, you're not going to say that word around me, cancer.
Okay.
I mean, it was
Wow. Okay.
it was
Verboten. Yes.
yeah, talk to the
Okay.
hand moment. You're not going to say that word around me. And you mark my words, I will live until your sister's 5th birthday. Mark my
Holy
words.
cow.
Now, baby sister was 3.
Wow.
So that meant he was going to live 2 years, but the medical doctor said 6 weeks. Well, fast forward 2 years later, she had her 5th birthday. He was there. 2 days later, his second kidney blocked and 1 week
Wow.
passed. So in that, it was a victory. It was huge
Yeah.
victory. He
He
didn't have
did what he said he was going to do.
right. He didn't have
Yeah.
the faith that he would be cured, but because it was in every organ of his body, like it was completely inoperable. There was really nothing they could do.
Right.
But he had the faith and he poured in that 2-year period of time passion and purpose and focus. He started another business. That's what everybody does when they get cancer, right? He started
Wow.
another business.
Wow.
Yeah.
He wanted to squeeze all of the life juice out of that lemon as much as possible. Okay.
He did. He did.
Wow.
So he was an entrepreneur. I was raised by 2 entrepreneurs. Him and my mom were both entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And in that time, he sent me out on job sites. He was at an excavation, and I would meet the superintendent and survey guys and
Wow.
take all these numbers down and bring it to him. He started buying and selling used cars, and I would go and he'd give me a
Wow.
checklist on an envelope, a MapSco page. So I'm dating myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and
good.
then cash in the envelope. And it was, if everything checks out, this is how much you can pay this guy. And it was never a woman. It was always a man. I negotiated with men only. And I'm
Of course.
15, 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
Not even kidding you. But nobody told me I couldn't do that. Now, I knew my friends weren't doing that on Saturday.
Right. It didn't feel weird to you because your dad was just telling you what to do.
Exactly.
It's like, go to the store and buy this. It's the same, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
I
And he
mean,
gave
it's
me my
different
closing
than
line.
when people think about like who becomes entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs. Like if your parents are an entrepreneur or both of them or one of them, really good chance that they're going to give you a whole lot of mentoring.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And it's going to be just like an ordinary thing, right?
Right. You don't even know you're getting it until late in life, honestly.
Right. Like, did like getting a job like seem foreign to you, or did that feel natural to you?
Well, considering I was driving a water truck at 8, a dump truck at 10, and a front end loader when I was 12.
I love it.
Was getting to ride my motorcycles on Fridays. Like
So
that.
you were just working all the time.
I'm sure I was not doing what everybody else was doing. Obviously,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But he was allowing me to do that. Yeah, I got a job at 13 teaching skating lessons on Saturday for $50. I would make $50 for 1 hour.
But that's not a job. Though. That's not a job. That's a business. It's a business. It is. It's job-ish.
Job-ish. Yes.
It's a job-ish business, but it's like when I say job, I mean like when you go and sign and get a W-2 and do all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was definitely something that was different, I will say, than what I was exposed to growing up. And my parents, they worked their business around their life as much as possible. Like if it had been raining for 2 weeks, well, obviously at that point, my dad would have to make up for all the time he lost because of the rain. You can't move dirt if it's raining, right? You can't, do that.
Yeah.
So within reason, they did work their life around their business or business around their life. And so many times those of us in a job, we have to work our life around our business. And that balance in there is important so that you're not burning both ends of the candle. Now, I've definitely had those years where I burned every end of the candle there was when my kids were young and I was traveling a lot for work.
Right.
But it comes at a price, right? You're going to pay a price.
Yeah.
So that's something that is, my heart goes out.
You usually like learn it the hard way, unfortunately.
100%.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, okay. So you had to dissolve your dad's businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So your mom, your sister, well, she was 5, but I'm sure she had like envelopes with cash and checklists.
Yeah, she was starting kindergarten about the time that was happening. And then I had 2 other siblings too that were 18.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was a rough time. My uncle was supposed to be the executor of the will, but he was heartbroken when he was his younger brother. My dad was the older brother. And so he was his hero too. And he lost his hero, and he just didn't have the heart to do what had been set in front of him. So it needed to be done. And I turned 18 6 weeks after he died. So at this point now I can do the things that need to be done just to move the family forward the way that we needed to. So it was, I didn't, like I said, it wasn't abnormal because I just did what needed to be done and never questioned it. But was everyone else doing it? No, sure. No, they weren't doing it, but that's okay.
No, nothing seems weird to you when you're just doing it, right?
Right.
Maybe people like looking in from the outside might go, "You're doing what?"
Right. Yeah. As I look back now, and I think about, went to work full time so that I could put myself through school, and the math doesn't work. Like I paid for college on $6.12 an hour. Tell me how that's possible. And looking at, even at college back then, it all worked out some way, somehow. The gas would last long enough to get me to school. And so I wasn't eating lobster, but we were doing all right. I'll put it that way.
You're doing fine. Well, the cool thing about being young is like you don't have a lot of bill commitments, right?
True.
Right? So like that, you don't think about that later on. You're like, oh, what's my burn rate every month? Nothing. I'm living at home with mom, or maybe I'm living in a dorm or whatever. Right. So
yeah,
I get it. Okay. So let's talk about college. So where did you go to college?
So I went to, in Dallas, there's community colleges around Dallas, and
love community college.
Yeah. Given that I was working full time, I went where it made sense for me to work it in. So where could I maximize my work hours and maximize my school hours? So
sounds like me. Yeah.
So I tried to only go to school on Tuesday, Thursday. And sometimes that meant I was going to different of the community colleges in the first couple of years. Then I drove to Denton, which is about a 45-minute to an hour drive north of Dallas. And
I've been to Denton. Yeah, I remember Denton.
At TWU, Texas Women's University. And I was pre-med, so my GPA really mattered. And all the way through. Yeah. But
you just like doing hard things.
I get it. Yes.
Wow.
I didn't go to medical school, but I don't regret it. My heart was to help people. And I realized a decade or so ago that I have gotten to do that. I have been able to help people in a different way. Not with medicine, but with helping them in business and helping them to overcome all the things that they've overcome.
I could write a book about how to get a 4-year degree in about 20 years. So I did, I didn't graduate until after I retired from the Air Force.
Wow.
Neat, huh? Yeah.
I have so much admiration for anyone who does college or any kind of college, even if it's a graduate degree or whatever later in life, because of the difficulty. A dear friend of mine has just gone back to school for this, and she's doing it remote right now through USC, but she's based in Dallas. I'm just like,
remote is not as good.
I cannot imagine doing that. I just cannot imagine doing what she's doing right now. And she's my age. We went to high school together.
I did one remote class when I finished my bachelor's degree in psychology, not a psychologist. So I can share that as well.
Yes.
But that one remote class was my one and only B, I think. I got a B.
Wow.
I didn't even know how to participate in class.
Right. Right. No, I get it.
Yeah. I was like, what do I have to do to participate again? And she's like, you didn't participate enough. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I know how.
Right. Now,
Now that I have a B, I know how to participate. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
So you graduate high school, not high school, college. What's your first job out of college?
So I was.
Is that when you go to Wisconsin?
Yes, pretty much. I went to, so I had a degree in biology and a degree in chemistry with a minor in psychology. So
wow. My goodness. Yes.
You don't want to go to medical
sales.
That's where I ended up. I didn't start in sales, but I went to technical services or regulatory affairs for a chemical company in Dallas.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And that was about a 3-year period of time working for them. But that was, so they were selling water treatment products to commercial industrial sites or grounds care.
So you're using that chemistry stuff.
Yeah. And then I got into regulatory affairs, which was fascinating. So that was getting pre-market approval with EPA for their regulated pesticide products. And to me, that was, I can do this. I can navigate these pathways. And that was what took me to Wisconsin. So I was recruited by SC Johnson for a regulatory affairs specialist type of role there.
Okay. Because you already knew how to do it.
Yes. So it was over the
So super, it sounds like it's like super transferable. Like if you learn how to do that, right, you can do that for anybody.
Yes, absolutely. And
got it. Okay.
There's where I started adding the FDA monograph types of products, and they acquired Ziploc. And so FDA came up under that as well at some point.
Okay.
But Raid and Off had insect repellents and pesticides. And then you had Ziploc that came on board with the FDA monograph. And they had Aveeno, which was a FDA monograph type of product. And there was another one that I cannot I know what it was. Any of the home cleaning products, your Bubbles, Fantastic, Windex.
Anything that might have the Mr. Yuck label on it, right?
Yeah.
You actually remember Mr. Yuck.
Antimicrobial, like all of those. So it was a fun time. They had just created the antimicrobial division of the EPA. So it was whole new people excited about what they were doing. But I was doing that.
Sounds like fun though.
It was. It was fun because I had to know it was across all the brands. So whereas somebody that was a brand manager would just be on the Raid brand for their whole career, that's what they would do. They wouldn't necessarily.
I'm the Raid guy. Right.
Yeah. They wouldn't go over to the Glade brand and Air Care, for example. But for regulatory, we did have purview of all of them. So I learned all the consumer insights across all of the brands, learned what were the marketing claims that tested well in consumer testing. And it was really a foundation of relating to consumers, I think, more than anything. It was every brand they have is a category leading brand. They don't do that. They don't even enter a category if they're not going to be the category leader.
Wow. Yeah.
So, when you've got at the time they were a $11 billion privately held company. I don't even know what they are today, but certainly one of the largest privately owned companies in the US. And they were around for 100 years whenever I joined.
Yeah. They're not going anywhere.
No. So it was an amazing experience. They're a great company. But I needed to get back to Texas, as we talked earlier. So
So how long did you end up staying in Wisconsin?
About 4 years. And
that's too much time in Wisconsin.
It was just enough. And finally came to my senses and needed to get back home. So I took the first
eating
job.
Too much cheese.
Yeah, exactly. I took the first job to get me back to Texas. And that was where I met a nutrition company in the direct selling space and started working with entrepreneurs. And the rest is history.
Let me back up.
Sales.
Let me back up. I want to get some personal insights about your barbecue experience in Wisconsin.
Barbecue.
Yeah. Because they don't have any. They don't.
They barbecue brat. That's it. Bratwurst was it.
So after growing up and traveling around in the Air Force, I learned what barbecue was.
Oh yeah.
And they don't do it in the northern tier.
No.
I think I've figured it out. Right. Like to actually truly barbecue, you need like 4 hours minimum. Right. And it's usually longer. Right.
Yeah.
Those northern tier people have other things to do
That's true.
in the summertime.
True.
So they just want to grill it and eat it, you know?
That's right. That's
Right.
exactly right. Yeah, my husband has a Traeger that he uses, and it's
Oh,
an
yeah.
app on his phone. He knows the
Yeah,
exact
yeah, yeah.
temperature. He's cooking brisket or he's cooking pulled pork,
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, but you don't. I was thinking about getting a Traeger, but my buddy got one. It's too hands off for me. I mean, I actually like the waiting and the sitting and smelling the smoke.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he literally fires and forgets on that Traeger.
That's right.
Like thank God he had Bluetooth, or it would be on there a week.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's
Because
exactly
basically it's a set and forget, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great, you know, but I want to play with it. So
There you
my
go.
smoker's electric and it's very hands-on.
There you
I have to
go.
load the chips.
Then you've got the good old fashioned type
That's
of
fun for me. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try tri-tip again. Okay. So anyway, all right. So you somehow in this time frame, you become like how did you get into sales before we get to the C-level chief sales officer job?
So it was the first job that took me back to Texas, and it was a marketing and sales role. It wasn't really
Okay.
sales like you would think of sales selling into a client.
Right.
It was working with the independent distributors. They were the ones who then sold to clients, to end
Okay.
consumers. So it was developing all the marketing and sales tools that they needed to be able to do that. And at the time, that was brochures, it was catalogs, it was there
Okay.
wasn't an internet. That's where
Right.
the internet came on the
Right.
scene. And so it was very different back then, but it was
Yeah.
fascinating to learn, and it was nutrition. So it was something I was passionate about. I've worked out every day of my life just about it, except for
Wow.
when I didn't know I was in menopause, I'll put it that way, after having my second son. And, so I've always tried to take care of my body and tried to fuel my body well.
Right.
So nutrition just fit. And that's where the sales side came in. Shortly thereafter, went to a company that I was in the skincare space, and I actually went into a sales role working directly 24/7 with the sales force. So those first couple of companies were the foundation for me to really learn how that independent distributor model works, and what it takes for them to be successful, because thousands of people join businesses like that. And thousands of people leave businesses like that every year.
Right.
Most of the time, they're quitting a business they haven't even started.
Wow.
And that's the sad part, is that excitement gets high. And then if they don't take off and they don't do something with it, they don't take action, they don't tell people about it, then fear starts to creep up. And when it overcomes it, it's like, oh, well, that didn't work for me. Okay.
Right.
Did you work it? Did you do anything with it?
Right.
But fear wins in a lot of cases.
Always. Yeah. In a lot of cases, unless there's somebody there to calm you down or, talk you off the ledge kind of.
Right. Or to give you the next best step to take, right? To give you baby steps to not overwhelm.
Right.
Just enough to take action.
Once you get to that overwhelm, you're just like, I'm out. Right.
Yeah.
It's like this gut limbic system kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if there's somebody there to just say, let's go have a beer, maybe we can chat, maybe they can talk you off the ledge, but maybe not. Yeah. Right. Just depends on how that all rolls out. So, okay. So you ascend the corporate ladder. So so you're in the C-level roles of chief sales officer. Wow. That sounds crazy. What does a person even do?
So a lot of meetings. Yes, a lot of meetings, a lot of strategy, a lot of reviewing key performance indicators, a lot of really understanding what's working in the business, what's not working in the business. Both on the.
So you're like pulling the levels of the business, basically. The levers
and
of the business.
deciding what levers need to be pulled in the business. Yes, very
interesting.
Much.
Yeah. Wow, it's a whole nother world to me. Whenever I was in the military and I would see like colonels and bosses and all these people, and I just look at their calendars and I see like, they're busy all day. Right. I know they're doing things. Right. But as a frontline fighter, I have no idea what you're doing,
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's the piece that some of it is, I look at things through two lenses. One is what's revenue generating, what's a revenue generating action
Sure.
and activity, and what's non-revenue generating.
Right.
And some are, some of the things that at that level that you have to do are not revenue generating per se,
Right.
because it's studying the business, the trends of the business, what the health of the business. And in the direct selling industry, those businesses are living, breathing organisms because they're comprised of people who are a volunteer army. They choose to do it or they choose not to do it every day.
Right.
And you've got to respect that. And you've got to always look at those health indicators, just like you would take and do blood work and look at the key indicators of your blood work from a nutritional standpoint or from, what is your cholesterol
metaphor.
or your,
right? Okay.
So you have to look at the business and that it is non-revenue generating, but it ends up being revenue generating. When you see things that are positive or negative trends, you want to fuel the positive and add fuel to the fire. And for the things that are starting to go into what's not working, you want to change before you need to change. So
you want to catch it before it becomes like,
absolutely.
Right. Like, okay, this is trending bad. What do we do? Right.
Right.
Wow.
And that's always an easy thing to say, not so easy to do.
Totally. Yeah. There's also all those things that you have to do that don't make you any money, that cost you money, like regulatory things, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't want to do any of those things.
But you have to. You got to stay on top of where the market is, where the environment is that you're in, and understand that.
That's got to be stress inducing, though. I mean,
not if you're doing all the right things. I mean, if you're doing things right, doing the right things, then it's not. It's just a matter of equipping people so that they are successful and they don't stub their toe. That's what it's all about. So
how did you get into this personal development training program? Was that a different job altogether, or? It
was a volunteer.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah. My husband and I went through the training in 2005, I think. And then immediately started volunteering on a monthly basis, worked my way up to be the lead facilitator of the relationship training, which was the fourth training in a series of 5. So that it was started by Dr. Phil back in the 80s. And at this point, it was a nonprofit. It had changed ownership after he became the Dr. Phil. That's when he came on the Oprah show and launched his career, was that training.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So this was.
So that all happened before he became the Dr. Phil.
Yes. He put this training together that was changing people's lives before he, the popularity and the celebrity.
That's probably like how Oprah met him, maybe. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah. They actually showed pieces of the training that he did and he facilitated on her show. They followed the class all the way through to see the transformation. So this was, several years later, but it was 15 years of our lives that we dedicated to facilitating and helping people create a great life. And everyone from someone that you would know as a Grammy award-winning artist to a homeless person. And every person, every walk of life in between. And the truth of it is that we like to think we're very different, but in reality, of who we are very much the same. And you would never think that the Grammy award-winning artist and the homeless guy would be best of friends, but they are still to this day. Because they had the same wounds of their childhood. They talked the same language. They understood what happened to each other because they had the same situations that happened to them along the way, right? So there are things about people that we don't know why we relate to people, but we're drawn to that person for some reason.
Right.
If you're willing to go there and get to know somebody on a heart level, you'll find out real quick why you're drawn to that person. There's something in that person that relates directly to you. So,
and what you're saying, I like, because it's like, there's more things that people have in common than that are different.
That's right.
Were you ever a fan of the show on NPR called Car Talk?
I know of it.
You know of it. Okay.
I know of it, but I didn't.
Not really.
NPR. My husband's the NPR guy. He listens to NPR. Yes. So
the point is like 99% of every episode of that show is exactly the same. Like they are saying the same words. The only thing that's different is like the calls. Right?
The person
People,
that's saying
yeah. Yeah. Well, they call in, they're funny, they're not funny, they have a problem that can be solved. It's it's different, right? But
Sure.
the beginning is the same. The end is exactly the same. It's additive, but it's the same, right? So like I think like most people are probably 99% same, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
the 1% that makes us, unique. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's more commonalities amongst all those people you think you don't like.
That's right. That's right.
If you
Well, you
just,
spot it, you got it, right?
yeah,
Like
well,
that's
yeah, you just,
childhood psychology on the kindergarten playground. Takes one to know one.
right.
So
Yeah.
we don't like to look at it that way. The reason what I don't like about you, I also
Yeah. That
see
mirror
within
thing.
myself. We don't like to
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
ourselves and say, "Oh, I
Right.
got that too."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So, but that's where our judgments and our criticism a lot of time will come from. Is
Right. You
in
see something
ourselves.
in someone else that you don't like about you.
That's right. That's right.
I know.
It's
Yes.
hard to look in the mirror and see that, but that's what that training actually equips you to do, is to be
Right.
able to look in the mirror and embrace that. Because when you can look at that and you can be you are your best coach, but you can't
Right.
see behind you. Like you can see behind me. I can see behind me because of Zoom. In my peripheral vision, I
Right.
can only see here, right? To where
Right.
my hands are. You, being a coach, can see behind me. If I'm willing to look in a mirror, then I've got a 360-degree view of myself. But it means
Right.
I've got to be willing to look at the things I don't want to look at, to look at the
Right.
things that are not pretty, that are not,
Yeah.
things that I like about myself.
Right.
And there's a whole nother level. There's more levels than we can even count of who we can become if we're willing to look at those things.
Yes. It's all in that. And the places you don't, what is that? There's a phrase, buried treasure. If you're looking, willing to go digging around for buried treasure inside of you, you're
Yes,
going to dig up some real good stuff.
that's
right?
exactly right.
Yeah. You're going to get over some stuff. And then I remember when my wife and I, it was about the same time, like 2004, 2005 ish. We had just moved to Los Angeles and we were going through IVF treatment.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. Trying to have kids for like a long time. Right.
Wow.
And my wife went through this procedure and it was just like let's check things out down there kind of scope. Right.
Mhm.
And she almost passed out and threw up. Right.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
And the provider was like, honey, this is nothing. You're about to be pregnant and then go through birth. So,
yeah.
buckle up. Right. And then we went home and she was just like white as a sheet. She's like,
Wow.
I don't know if I want to have a kid anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So I Googled, thankfully there was still Google. It might have not have been Google because who knows, but Dr. Phil's page came up when I said, should I have kids?
Wow.
And answer number one was, if you're asking the question, the answer is probably no.
Wow.
Right.
What?
And, it wasn't just Dr. Phil. I mean, there was discussion, but we both decided that we didn't want to have kids together. Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That was awesome. Right.
Oh, yeah.
We have
When
each
you're on
other
the
and the money.
When you're both on the same page, it makes everything easier, right? If
Yes.
one does and one doesn't, there's
Right.
the friction of something like that where you're not.
Yeah. It's not going to work out. Right.
Makes it too
Right.
hard.
Right.
Yeah.
And neither one of us were really like all that aware about why we were trying to have kids. It was just, we were vrooming to kids. Right.
Gotcha.
It's like, that's just what people do. Right. We're in our 30s. We're kind of behind.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So thanks, Dr. Phil, for helping us out. So I want to talk a little bit about, I know we're getting close to wrapping up already. Geez, this one too fast. You need to come back. There's more Charla Gervers that we could get into. But anyway, as we wrap up, let's talk about your husband going through alcoholism and almost divorcing twice, because that's definitely filled with fears.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, he definitely. So, we both recreationally drank whenever we were dating and
Right.
first got married. And
Me
then
too.
over time, things just escalated, and
Right.
it would be through the holidays, things would get a little worse. He would drink a little bit more often. And I didn't really see the pattern until it had become severe. I stopped drinking about 7 years before he did, and trying to really understand what was going on.
Right.
And there was a point where we both were invited to another church to go to through a study. It's called Freedom Bible Study. And it was women's group with women and men with men. And we both went through this. And that was a point where really prayer just entered my life in a completely different way. My relationship with God just was foundational. It was everything to me at that point.
Wow. Great.
And, as I'm reaching in my vertical relationship for God, and he was reaching for God, it actually brought us closer. It not before there was, some friction, I'll say.
Right.
So it all started with him handing me divorce papers on Thanksgiving Day. And
Wow.
is where I knew in that moment, I knew that it was not just our family and our marriage that we were fighting for. It was his life. And because
Wow.
he had been drinking year round at that point. But this study was huge because it surrounded him with like-minded people who all wanted him to be well and who all
Right.
wanted him to break free of this.
Right.
And then about 6 months later, he said, we never actually separated. He never actually moved out or anything like that.
He handed you papers, but you just were like, I'm not signing these yet. Let's finish this thing. Wow. Okay.
Well, yeah, I did. And I called his cousin who had an outlaw biker ministry where she'd go, her and her husband go to biker gangs that are running from the police. I'll say it that way. And, minister to them and share the love of Jesus with them. And
that's awesome.
And shared with her what had happened. And she said to me, she said, you're not going to like what I had to say. And I said, well, say it anyway. She said, if you were the wife the Bible calls you to be, he wouldn't have filed for divorce. And of course I didn't like that, but she was right.
Wow.
I was more worried about fixing him than I was worried about me. And like that mirror I told you earlier, it was more all about like Jason and not about Charla at all. So once I really focused back on what I needed to do to work on me and my relationship with God, then I started to get clarity, and then things started to get momentum, and I was able to detach in a loving way and let him be him and not be upset when he was drinking in the afternoon and he came home. I would not be critical. And
right.
To release all of that. He called me one day about 6 months later and said, I have a problem that's too big for AA. I need to go inpatient treatment. And he did.
Wow.
From that point forward, it's been 6.5 years. He hasn't even had a desire to drink. He serves in our church and runs the audio in our church. He plays guitar on stage from time to time at church. He's fully all in now, and in a completely different way, just a whole different level of a human than he was previously. And our marriage has never been better. We just welcomed our third grandbaby. And this literally this past weekend. And
congratulations again.
And he's he's here for everything of it. He's here for all of the pieces and parts that go with that. So
I'll say that about like when addiction, you need something spiritual bigger than you, whatever that is. You need that. What I like the vertical relationship.
Right.
That's awesome. Yes, that's great. I love that because
if we could do it on our own, we would. But we
one
can't.
One of the things of AA, right, is that higher power element, and that's huge.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. I'm starting to think like as I go through all of my addictions and get over them again, right? Like addiction is like a narrowing of options to be okay. Right? It's like, this is the only thing that I know how to make myself feel okay. Right?
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. It's like for insert whatever your thing is. Right. But that's what it is. It's like, this is the only thing I know how to do right now.
Right.
one of
We
the
learn
things,
those coping mechanisms
yeah,
to just
yeah,
because our brain takes over. At some point, our brain
right.
is uncomfortable and it doesn't want to be uncomfortable. It
Yeah,
wants to
yeah.
be safe, right?
And
And
things, yeah.
that's why the coping mechanisms start.
And it's also, there's a psychological thing, but there's also like what your husband was saying is like there's a physiological thing.
That's right. Once it becomes the disease and the
Yes. Your
disease
brain
is
is like,
there,
yeah, yeah,
that's right. There's
yeah.
no doing it on your own. It is
No,
your brain chemistry has completely changed
right.
and you are victim to it. And
Totally.
that's the piece
It's a
that a lot of
disease at that point.
spouse,
Yes.
yeah, a
Right,
spouse
right,
doesn't want to recognize the disease state because they
right,
want to blame their partner
right,
and he didn't do this or he's doing that.
right.
Well, that disease, once the disease
Yeah,
takes over, it's no longer him.
yeah,
It's not a matter of willpower.
right.
The disease is running him just like the disease of diabetes.
Or cancer or
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
right. If you would think like, geez, oh, those cancer people,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
you would
That
never
be
say
a-
that.
No, you would never say
never
that.
say that, right? Right.
Yeah.
But we do for these
Yeah.
other behavior-based diseases, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. And that piece is huge. I hope the stigma things, just like there's so much stigma around mental health and
Right.
there was certainly as I grew up, and now hopefully we're getting to a place where we're starting to break free of that. I hope also that alcoholism, drug addiction, I have a
Right.
whole
All
different
the
level
all the addictions. Yes.
right
There's so
of
many.
mercy and grace for people who are going through any kind of addiction. I just
Right.
fasted from sugar for 3 weeks. And when I say fasted from sugar, it was no vinegar, nothing that is a simple starch or even a complex starch that could turn to sugar.
Hardcore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had an addiction until I fasted sugar. And then
I know, right?
I was a whole different human for
Yeah.
that few weeks. And it was not a pretty version. It was not at all.
My sugar addiction was deep.
Gosh.
It's still around. I think I've just got it under control.
Well, and it's
I mean,
the acceptable, right? Food is, we don't talk about that as an addiction
Right.
because it's an
Right.
acceptable addiction. Is it?
Yeah. I like to like play like with fire, right? Like yes, I want to do my fasting. Yes, I want to have my green smoothies. I want to have my protein shakes, but I also want to have some chicken wings.
Sure. Right. Oh yeah. I
Right?
do
It's
too.
balance,
Yes.
and occasionally I want to have some French fries with ketchup,
Right.
right?
Right.
Is that bad? Yeah, it is. I know that.
Sure.
As long as I'm not living on it,
Right. Right.
you know.
That's where the issue is. Is it a treat
Right.
or is it your mainstay? Is it
Exactly.
what you're doing every day? That's
Right.
a different because it can create the disease state in those
Totally.
types of situations. So
Right.
yeah, where you become dependent on it is the place where the shift happens, where
Totally.
it's I need this. And
Yes.
even if it is, I need sugar at this time of day every day. And I
Right,
think
right.
about it at this time of day every day.
Yeah.
There was a book there is a book, it's called Getting Them Sober. And in the back of this little bitty tiny book has this checklist and you answer these 10 questions if you answer these 10 questions, any 2 or more, you're
Wow.
likely an alcoholic. Okay.
Right.
Do you think about alcohol at the same time every day? Do
Ooh.
you have rituals in your week that you typically drink on a certain day of the week? Like there
Right.
were some questions in there and I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And if
Sure.
you applied those to sugar, oh my gosh, that would be
Yeah.
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 probably like 8 or 9 of them.
Right.
So in any case, there's addiction.
I like to call that the Friday feeling, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
all have the Friday feeling.
Some kind of Friday feeling. So
Right.
does the Friday feeling control you? Does it have
Right.
a power over you is
Right.
where
It used to. I remember like friends and I think it was children of friends saying, what is it with you and beer? Now, I never got off the rails on drinking, but when somebody says something like that to you, like I really need to be drinking now and I'm not, right? That makes you think, right?
No, it does. It does.
Right.
It does.
Right.
Or I know you like this, but I know you like this wine. right? Oh, I'm that predictable that you know exactly what I drink, right? So,
Right.
I mean, but
Sure,
that's
sure.
the acceptable thing in our society. That
Right.
actually alcohol is fascinating because it's the one drug that if you don't consume it, people ask you why.
Right. Right. It's weird. Yeah.
It becomes weird. You
Yeah.
actually lose friends. We are evidence of the fact that you lose
Yeah.
close relationships as a result
Right.
because you're no longer
Wow.
going
Right.
to do what they do anymore.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that. And
Yeah.
what's interesting is now, exiting that, me exiting kind of first and then him exiting 6.5 years ago. Now there are friends that are also exiting that lifestyle and we're
They come
becoming,
back.
but you just kind of have to meet people where you are and you have to do what's best for you. And
Yeah.
that is why you have to change the people, the places, and the things. That's part of the advice that they give you so that you're not running those same habit loops. So your brain is not tempted to get back in that habit loop again and say, oh, at this time, at this place, you always drink this. At this place, you always eat a cheesecake, whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
So that's where, when it has power over us and that habit loop is more powerful than our willpower, we're victim to it at that point.
Totally.
And I don't ever want to be in that place of being victim to something then.
Yeah.
Where it has power over me.
Right.
So, but I have a heart for the ones who do. And all I can say is,
I feel lucky. Like,
find someone that you can do this journey with that understands it. And if you're not in a place where you can get help by, going to AA or going to treatment, a counselor, there are plenty of resources. Go to United Way. They, if you don't have the income, United Way has got services that are available to people. There's services in your community a lot of times that on a community level that are available. So getting help and getting a buddy that will do the walk with you. Like I will say for me, I had to get my best friend I wanted to quit. And, after my husband gave me the divorce papers and all of that, it got hard. And I knew I would want to quit. I knew that was just easier for me to quit. And I told her, I'm going to tell you that I want to quit. I promise you, I'm going to get to a point where I do, but this is what I need. I need you to do this. This is what I need you to do. Whenever I do that, I need you to remind me. And I wrote it out so that she could just
show it to you. Yeah. That's
and it
great.
would take me off my high horse and remind me of what is really most important to me in the places where I was weak. And, when you're strong, you can do that, right? You can't do that in the weak valleys.
Right.
Only do that on the mountaintops.
Totally.
So taking advantage of that and reminding yourself of why you're going through this battle and getting somebody that will help walk it with you is key.
Yeah. You have to find somebody that is not going to judge you and is just going to, get you through it. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. You can't do it on your own. And then that spiritual piece is like, you really literally need to surrender to a higher power.
That's right.
And say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I want to be better and I don't know how.
That's exactly right. It's only when we come to the end of ourselves that it's like, I feel like God's like, oh, finally, I've been waiting for you to give me the reins. And
it's literally, it's like right away. It's not like the next day.
No,
it's like that moment. Exactly.
It is instant.
It's instant. Yes.
Forever to get us to the end of ourselves, to where we fully surrender.
Right. Where you're just at the end of the rope and you go, yep, I can't do it. I need help.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when he's like still in the nope, he's like never lived, right? The moment he says, please God, the snow starts flying again.
I never thought about it that way. But
go back and watch it again, right? Just that moment he says, please God. And then the snow starts, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
like,
sometimes that's it.
That's it.
It's a heart posture, right? It's not even a word. Right. So many people
not really, no.
Around prayer and around how do I do.
And you don't have to say them necessarily. You can just think it. Yes.
That's exactly right.
If you think it with your heart, that's enough. Right.
It is the posture and what you're giving it over and saying,
Yeah.
I don't know how. Show me how.
Charla, this has been a blast. We're 4 minutes over. We have to wrap this up. So tell people how they can best get in touch with you and find your consulting business.
Okay, so I am on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn,
Gotcha.
Charla, CHARLA dash Gervers, GER, as in Victor, ERS 2024.
I will link that in the show notes.
Okay.
Make it easy.
At Charla Gervers on Instagram and Charla Gervers Business on Facebook. So you can find me any of those 3 places. And I love working with people to help them unleash the greatness inside them truly and live this one life we get to live and live it in a way that you actually love your life. That to me, when people can love the life that they have and live in gratitude each and every day, live in gratitude, even in the hard times, right? You can find gratitude in the hardest of times, then really risen to the level of the highest level, I feel like, of what at least I've experienced so far in life. So that's my wish for everyone.
Sounds great. Thank you for hanging out with me for about an hour.
Well, thank you for the honor and privilege being on your show. This has been fun.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.